Welcome to the Reconciling Mission podcast, where we explore missional engagement with our local communities and a broader understanding of reconciliation. I'm Mina, your host, Network and Development Lead. I'm a priest, an author, and someone who has the privilege of leading two wonderful churches in Derby. So join me as we dive into rich conversations, biblical insights, and inspiring stories of churches and individuals finding ways to engage with our neighbours and contribute to reconciliation in our local contexts. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our podcast. And today we are with Rebbe Hedger, and she is going to talk to us about coaching and action learning groups, which are a key part of the Reconciling Mission programme. So, hello, Rebbe. Tell us, what is coaching? Just to start off with broad brushstrokes, what is coaching?
So for me, coaching is about a specific type of conversation. So it's a conversation where someone feels seen and heard and hopefully gets new insights into their own stuff. It's forward, future focused conversations. So different to sort of maybe counselling or other sorts of therapy in that sense. But it's a conversation where we sort of partner together and hold space in order that someone moves forward.
And action learning groups, action learning sets are a particular type of coaching.
Yeah.
So can you tell us what an action learning group is, how it operates, and kind of what it's particularly useful for?
It's different to one-to-one because it's not just you and a coach, and it's different to group coaching because it's not around a thing that the whole group is sharing, but it's this middle space of you bringing something and the group then get to notice, ask questions, and the facilitator holds that space in order that you would move forward. And it's a really dynamic way of thinking through your stuff because it's not just a one-to-one conversation, but it's a chance for you to bring your stuff, and everyone else in that group is there in service of you, in service of your thinking. I was leading one the other day and someone said, gosh, just the power of being listened to by a group. Like, there's not that many opportunities we have to be really heard by a group of people.
What might people be noticing about her?
The gift that other people have, when it's not our stuff, we're a bit removed, and we get to maybe just see and listen to what's going on when someone describes their situation or when someone shares their stuff. And so that might be noticing, a repeated word that someone keeps talking about, or it might be noticing, oh, you've really talked about this thing over here. And what it isn't doing is fixing it or diagnosing, which some of us, and often as this human part of us that wants to fix it for other people. But actually there's a real discipline, I think, in this, and a real gift to learn what it is to just notice and say, oh, okay, I noticed we've heard the word overwhelm a few times, and just to offer that and notice maybe how that sounds, how are people talking about their stuff, and how we say things is, I think, as important as what we say. So it's not about hearing someone and going, oh, well, I know the answer or because I think, again, there's just something, the reason why I really love the coaching space is that I think it's really honouring to the individual and to our own sense of being able to work it out. And, actually there's a real gift in getting to it by yourself. I'm reading a little book to my little boy at the moment about Jesus feeding the 5,000. And the way that it says it, when Jesus asked the disciples, he says, how are we going to feed all this crowd? And then in brackets it says, Jesus knew, really. But he still asked the question. And for me, that's a really good example of like what that coaching mentality of like, I'm going to ask this question, even if clearly Jesus knew how that was going to play out because he was Jesus. But there's this sense of the disciples had to figure that out themselves, and that process of them going and finding the little boy and seeing the miracle happen was more important than how Jesus just said, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to pray. We're going to see a miracle. Great.
How have you seen action learning sets be really effective on reconciling mission or in other contexts? How have you seen them being effective?
An example was someone the other day just wanted to think through some questions, like it was a huge thing that wasn't going to be there wasn't like an easy fix that was going to happen in the 20 minutes we had or half an hour that we had, but actually they just wanted to hear themselves think that through a bit more. And the gift of the group allowed, and their questions allowed that person to really go, oh yeah, that's my question, that's the bit that I'm not sure about. And so it wasn't like a to-do list that was written, but actually that just that sense of, oh, I've been heard, I've been seen in my thoughts, and I've heard myself say some stuff. Equally, have seen people really nail some really big strategic stuff just by asking questions, having questions asked from a different place allows that person to go, oh yeah, you know what, I do know the answer to that. And I just needed someone to say, well, what did you do before? Or how have you, what would you like it to be like? And just having space to dream a little bit and asking those questions in that format, oh, I know what I need to do now. Whether that's, the minutiae of what does my PCC agenda need to be like, or something huge like, do we need to employ somebody, or what does my team look like, or, big questions like that. So I think, yeah, just so many examples of how it can be used, and therefore it's different every time.
What is the most effective question you have ever been asked?
I can tell you an ineffective question.
Okay.
So we often think of those examples, don't we? But I was being coached during lockdown, and I got married in lockdown, and the thing I wanted to think about was, I've got 3 weeks to plan this wedding that is nothing like I thought it was going to be like, and I wanted to think it through, and I wanted to write a list of like what I needed to do, and that was what I asked for as the thinker. And the person coaching me just was like, yeah, but how do you feel about that? And I had, don't get me wrong, loads of emotion tied up in that, as you can well imagine, but that was not what I needed to do in that moment. And just experiencing that frustration of someone not listening to me and them thinking, oh, but really what you need to do is this thing. It was a real visceral experience of like, wow, this is what it means to not be heard and not be listened to, because that's not what I need right now. Absolutely, I need to deal with that, but I'd already decided this wasn't the space that I wanted to do that. And what I really needed was a list. I was trying to plan a wedding in 3 weeks. Like, I wanted to use that time to write a list and to think through the practicalities of that, and that experience of like almost like the opposite of like not effective questions and not being listened to, maybe really understand, wow, this is what happens when we think we know the answer for someone else, and how disempowering that is.
That sounds like quite an important thing to know as a coach. Do you say is another important thing that you've learned in your coaching journey?
So I think the value of coaching, I guess, is the thing that I've learned, that it really is a gift for people, even if it's just an hour every 6 weeks, or, being part of the RI program and gathering as an action learning set, like showing up to that and choosing to say, this could actually be quite useful. Often it is, and often it's way more useful than people expect. And the joy being watching someone else get to where they need to get to, and laying down my ego and my assumption that I might know, because actually I don't. And my gift as a coach, and our gift, I think, to each other as we listen, is to notice the stuff and to offer it and then see what happens, rather than the gift being, I've got the answer and I'm going to tell you what to do.
And so the final question then, what advice would you give to somebody who is coming in cold, never done an action learning set before, doesn't know what to expect? What advice would you give them?
These things often work when you choose to show up and to give it a go, much better than they do if you're sort of a bit skeptical or like not quite sure. So I guess trust in the process, and trust in that this is a really tried and tested way, that the facilitators are there to hold the space for a reason. Like, it make that, you know, we're here to make it safe for a start. So there's that, like, there's that structure in place for a reason. And so, yeah, be free to give it a go. We're not very good at saying, oh, that might be a gift for me. But, you know, that would actually serve me. And so, yeah, give it a go, show up and see what that is like. Because I don't think you'll be disappointed, is my suspicion.
Well, thank you so much, Rebby. Yeah, and thank you everybody who has joined us this time, and we'll see you again next time.